developing applets. What we're going to start talking about is creating, and we're going to start moving into a phase in this next couple of videos on creating web applications and web components using Java. And the first thing we're going to talk about are applets. And I'll give you a little quick demonstration of that shortly when I go over the overview of what exactly an applet is. Applets also have very special methods that we have to use. Now, we already seen a special method already in the main method, and applets have their own special version of those. We have AWT applets, and if you recall, AWT is the Abstract Windowing Toolkit. AWT was Java's first attempt at making graphical user interfaces. Now we have Swing applets, where we could take advantage of the more powerful GUI components in Swing. Then finally, what we'll do is kind of compare the two, and then we'll move into our last discussion on how we can pass HTML into an applet and kind of configure your applets on the fly. I think applets are pretty cool. Let me bring up this web page here. And in this web page, you can see I've got several looking like little block things going on here. Well, let me kind of show you what an applet is by, let's do a view source. And if you recall, the view source allows you to see the HTML that makes up this particular page. And if we take a look at the view source here, you can see that there's really not a lot of code here or not a lot of HTML going on. I mean, for example, look at this digital clock here. This clock is ticking, it's moving. Here I see hi everybody, here I see hello everybody, and Swing applet demo and whatnot. I mean, have you ever made a digital clock in JavaScript? That requires a fair amount of JavaScript, but yet all I see is something that refers to the code, the clock.class. Or here I see some code referring to hi everybody. Or here I see some code referring to another class. Here I actually see configuring an applet through HTML, and that kind of gives me the idea that maybe I could pass HTML through to an applet, which I can. So what exactly is an applet? Well, an applet is a compiled Java program, and if we remember, when we compile a Java application, it becomes a .class, that I can show people and display inside of a web browser. And in order to do that, you have to have a web browser that has a Java virtual machine built into it. Unfortunately for us, Microsoft Internet Explorer does. Let's see what version I'm using. If I go to help about Internet Explorer, I'm using Internet Explorer version 6.0. And I'll just tell you right now that every version of IE since about 4 has supported this. Netscape supports them. Just about every web browser out there at this day and age supports a Java virtual machine. The reason why I just want to emphasize that is because I don't think you're going to have any kind of an issue when you go ahead and deploy your applets and, oh, not everybody supports it. I'm pretty sure everybody that you're going to use supports it. But I just pointed out because it's something to be aware of. Now, when it comes to programming applets, there are two special methods that we have to consider. And those methods are the init method and the paint method. And it basically talks about the sequence of stages that an applet goes through in its lifetime. The first thing an applet does is when you create it is that it is said to be initialized. And you can kind of see maybe there's a method here called the init method that maybe kind of talks to, oh, this thing is being initialized. And you would be right. That definitely looks like it's being initialized. Then what happens is then the applet is initialized, and then it is displayed or painted to the screen. And that's kind of the second phase that happens in the applet's lifestyle. So the first thing that happens, it gets painted. The second thing, the first thing that happens is it gets initialized. The second thing is it gets painted. And we have those two special methods that can help us. Now, applets can be started and stopped, and you can basically pause them while they're off the screen if you chose to do so in some more advanced applet manipulation. And then finally, you can destroy an applet when it's over. Now, initialization, as I said, happens when your applet first loads. And you can do things there like create objects, set initial stages, load images and fonts, and even configure parameters. And you will use the init method to go ahead and configure the initialization stage of your applet. Then you've got the ability to display how things are drawn onto the screen. And you have the ability to control things like whether or not you want to have text on your screen, or set a graphic, or a background color. And you will do that by controlling and configuring the paint method. So again, there's these two special methods, and the correlation that I have, especially with the init method, is, remember we have public static void main, you know, that special main method, public static void main that we've been using. That's a special method, right? I mean, all Java applications have to implement the main method, and it takes the string, args, you know, that whole thing. No Java application will start without this. Well, the version of the main method in applets is the init method. So that's a very special method that we absolutely need to overload and implement within our applet classes. So now let's take a look at the code behind a fairly simple applet. And we're going to start off taking a look at my Hi Everybody applet. And this is going to be an example of an AWT applet. Again, in the first generation kind of an applet, using the Abstract Windowing Toolkit. Now, in order to use and create an applet, I have to set a reference to and import the following packages: java.awt and java.applet. And then the class that I create, in this example I called it Hi Everybody, it must extend the applet class. You have to extend the applet class. That's what makes your applet an applet. Because if